The hotel's done.
Nice.
No, done.
Didn't mean done. Dead?
Dead.
No. What happened?
Yeah. So I didn't tell you today in the office to be able to tell it now. So yesterday was what? Today's the 19th. So the due diligence period ended the 18th.
Right.
And that was like our second extension, I think. But they were like minor extensions, right? And so the seller came back to us and said, or we asked for an extension. Let me back up. On Thursday, what was yesterday? Today is Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah.
So Monday, Friday, Thursday. Last Thursday, we had me and Mika, Mika, one of the partners, Mika Mattingly. We had a call with the bank, and it wasn't just the bank. It wasn't, because the loan that we were trying to get is the split bifurcated loan. The bank's paying a percentage of the loan. It's an 80% LTV loan. They're paying a percentage at 80%. The other percentage is going, let's just say it's 50-50, right?
Right.
The other 50% is SBA. And it's a good loan. It's 80%. It was a 10-year fixed rate. And I think the blended rate was like 2.6 or something like that.
Dude, that's not bad.
Isn't bad right now in this time we live. And then, so I had to write the business plan. And so the person that we were speaking to was a woman named Brenda, and she works for the SBA organization. I think she lives in Tallahassee. She spent a lot of time, I believe, at TD Bank or I don't know, another bank. She spent like 14 years at, and then she works, specializes in SBA and for the SBA program.
Right.
So she takes your loan and packages it for you, underwrites it. You've already underwritten it, but then she goes with her team and they underwrite it, and then they put some cover on it. They kind of like, I don't know, they make it a little bit presentation a little nicer, right? And so, anyways, I had spoke to her a week previous. She gave me corrections. I made the corrections. We took the phone call that actual morning, Thursday, before even that phone call. I had gone to bed Wednesday night thinking like, I don't know, because it's such a story that unfolds when you're trying to buy something and done the crazy deep dive research that I did. And the day before Wednesday, I had spoke to one was a property owner that owns 4 units right around the block from this hotel. And she owns a 4-plex, cool, really nice 4-plex, very taken care of. And she Airbnbs all the units. I stayed there. Her name's Susan. They go for like $165 a night, and the fees get, compounded onto it.
Right.
And I was talking to her, and I was asking her, I was like, hey, do you know, the property? Of course she knows the property, but she says, yeah, I don't really know the owner and I don't know them. And so I was asking her, like, how does she feel about occupancy during the week? Because that was the real kind of uncertainty of the property, was like, what's going to go on during the week? There's no business driver, and that's usually what drives the business for hotels in any urban place, right? Or around the CBD or on the beach, whatever. We don't have that. There's no business. There's literally no business buildings or where people even go to business.
It's Fort Pierce. I mean, it's more
not even Fort Pierce. It's just where, I mean, there is a CBD in Fort Pierce, and there is a place where, you could, I don't know, have business people like traveling nurses or parents that are visiting their children. So there's those areas, but this is very secluded, 1 block from the beach, meant for nice romantic getaways, right? So my biggest uncertainty was to ask her what happens during the week. And she was like, she wouldn't give me a definite answer. And then I asked her about the seller of our property came to us and said, we have an option to sign the 2-bedroom for 4 months at $2,000 a month. That's $8,000. And I've told you this kind of like analysis before. And so that was $8,000. And then I did the analysis of if it rented at Airbnb, and the numbers state that it could probably get like $211 per night for Airbnb. and that would come at 70% occupancy for 4 months, comes to $17,000 compared to $8,000 for your multifamily. See, there's your multifamily analysis. Like you're saying, like the bank wants that. That's
Right.
the big delta. 8,000 revenue, 17,000 revenue.
Wow. That's a
what I'm
huge.
saying.
Yeah. No, I get it. Because a lot of banks now, because we're starting to get a lot of requests for both analysis, especially if it's an Airbnb. I guess a bank looking at the safer route. And they're probably going to loan, knowing what I know in my previous role, than the safer route, which we're going to loan based off of the multifamily route, even though
I guess
the Airbnb may provide you a higher annual income.
I guess I guess the bank could look at it like that if it was previously an apartment building.
I would agree. Yeah, and in this case, it's more of a hotel based on everything you showed me. It's basically a hotel, motel.
No, it is. That's
it's different.
The rights for it,
right?
And that's like the structure of it. Like
mm-hmm.
the square footage is 300 square foot. Like that's an average hotel room.
Right.
So anyway, so this woman, the property owner around the block, she said, I would take the $8,000 for the 4 months.
Really?
And you would think that if the area was so hot or good demand, robust or whatever, that someone would say, no, why would you do that? It's
right there, the red flag.
So so I thought like, whoa, like that's not good. And then she wouldn't give me any clear numbers or she just wouldn't give me any clarity of what I wanted to know about the occupancy during the week. So that was a red flag. And then I spoke to another third-party management company who had already spoke to two of them, who gave me all right numbers, workable numbers, right?
Right.
That you could still make a good IRR on the property. Then the third property management company gave me the lowest numbers. And I had spoke to the representative of the company, and they had told me like, Dave, this is this is like worst case scenario, base scenario, and I was kind of like taken from the numbers because of where I had placed kind of our numbers or our projections in the middle of the other two. And then, so I'm like, I put our numbers here bracketed by the other two management companies. And now I got a third management company down here. So really my number should slide down,
right?
If I'm going to really be an average of all three. And it's just weird to see that three companies can be so far away from each other. It just makes me think like no one's got a handle on the data, so there's no like clear floor, and who cares about the ceiling or the possibilities, because if you get burned out in the short term, who cares about the long term? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to bed that night thinking like, wow, I have so much uncertainty about where this asset should be and where it can go that I wasn't feeling good about it. As much as I want to close and actually like win the deal and have an investment property and hotel, I just didn't feel right I wasn't feeling good about it when I went to bed. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, I'm just going to nip this in the butt and call Mika, partner, and be honest and explain to her, hey, these are my 4 bullet points on what I just went over. And then plus, you throw on the inflation rates and the Fed fund, and 2.75 is being projected by the federal funds. And they said when we hit 2.75 in history, that's when a recession occurs. So if they're saying we're going to hit that somewhere in 2023, well, then we're going to see some kind of recession in 2023 because of this hyperinflation. The Feds are trying to cut people's spending.
Right.
Well, that's not good when you're talking about hotel.
Hospitality.
And I mean, that's how my gut says anyways, right? Like, I don't like that's, but then you think like, it's a hotel like that. It's more like staycation.
And it's affordable.
Right? It's affordable.
I mean,
romantic.
Yeah.
And it's a place that like people would drive to that live in a radius, I would say, of like an hour or two, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that's all speculation. Like,
of course.
So the other thing to throw in the fire is that the historicals for or from the seller were non-existent. She only really had 2021. Now she's owned it since 2006. So she should have a complete trajectory of numbers of revenue, and occupancy drops during the summer. And here's the good months, and here's where we're killing it. And these are the numbers, and looks how it's, gone up. And okay, COVID hit here or whatever. And, nothing. So it's like, man, you're going into this blind. And now I'm just making assumptions. And as we know, and being in appraisers in the commercial real estate world, you can basically make whatever assumptions you want, project whatever you want, and you can almost support any scenario.
Yeah.
If you've tried hard enough, you can really support. Now, when it's your own investment, you want to make sure you're supporting the right scenario, especially when you have a couple partners. And it's my first one. And nobody on the team is an expert in hospitality or has gone down this road before.
So it's a new venture for everybody.
Yeah, and they're letting me drive the friggin' stagecoach.
Yeah. I can see that.
So I woke up nervous and called.
That sucks.
Called Mika and said, "Look, I don't think that this is the deal that I want to be in." And as much as I kind of started to pull back and tell her the bullet points, she said, "Hold on, let's talk to the bank first. See what we have a call for and see what they say." So she took me right out of my, like 1 foot in, 1 foot out situation. After 4 months of putting my time and devotion into this project,
the broker and her kicked in to try to save the deal.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah.
And so we took the call at 4, and the lady from the SBA, Brenda, was super nice and complimented the report that I wrote. And then Mika went on to ask her, like, what's the probability of us getting the loan or not getting the loan? She said, what's the probability of us not getting the loan? And the lady Brenda said, well, once you pass my review, then my probability, my success rate is 100%. Now, don't jinx me, but she said, that's why we do the rigorous review. And then my team takes it over and fixes the underwriting or whatever, cleans up the packaging. You should be given the loan. So that was exciting. So now it was like, I took this idea of just one night seeing this hotel and then getting 2 partners and finding the debt for it. And now the woman's telling me, like, the money's there, so you can buy it. Because I had the partners with the equity partners, I have the debt partners with the bank and the SBA, this bifurcated loan and all this. And now it's like, okay, so the only variable of us to close this deal was we needed to have the seller in bed with us, meaning that to close this deal, we need another 45 days. Because we would not get it. When you do a SBA deal, it's a lot more paperwork on both sides for the borrower and for the banks and the SBA packaging, that it takes longer to get a commitment letter and everything, right? So for us to go down this path that we've been going down for the SBA, now mind you, we couldn't get a conventional loan because of the non-existent historical from the seller. So I mean, if she would have had strong historicals, we could have got a convention loan and had probably already had a commitment by now. But we didn't have that. We're not going to pay all cash. That's option B. Option C is SBA. And so Mika said, let me, get in contact with the seller and see if they'll extend. She sent that request out. The broker got back to us and said they'll extend with $5,000 to $10,000 hard money. And so we said, when we huddled up with 3 of us, the partners, and Dan, the older investor, he said he wasn't willing to go hard with any money, and we shouldn't really have to because we're so long in the process of the bank. And it's like, if you're, they were kind of trying to bluff with us, even though I don't know if it was a bluff or not. They said that they had an all cash money person waiting on the side, and that was going to,
went blank,
go hard.
Dan, hard money.
We as a group said, no, we're not going to do the hard money.
Of course. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if they would have put it back on the market, They're gonna have to wait another 45 days, maybe longer. Right?
Well, they're claiming that they had. We're still in here. There's more ice. Anyways, so they're claiming that they had someone that was going to pay all cash. They said that the group before us that bailed with the same bank that were with us, and they said now that they have all cash and they're ready to go hard. We're like, okay, well, the bank actually told us that no one's going to loan on it conventionally, and any other person is going to have to go down this SBA deal, or unless they have all cash, right?
Right.
So we were like, look, if you have all cash, good for you. Go that way. We don't have all cash, and we didn't really want to go hard. And I wasn't like jumping up and down to go hard because after the last couple of days that I had rethinking, uncertainty, no one giving me that exclamation mark that like, oh yeah, this is.
Yeah, you didn't have that push or
Yeah.
that reassurance that.
No, I mean, I knew that like at the end of the day, like I could have put in the hard work and done it, but I still wouldn't, and I would have enjoyed it and I would have learned a lot, but I still wouldn't have. I don't know, man. It was a lot of pressure and of producing and making it happen because plus my two partners weren't, like hospitality people, and they weren't like super hands on, right? Even though I think Mika would have got more involved with renovations and such, and she's a broker and she's just been more inclined to handle all the negotiations and lawyer stuff, right? And then Dan was kind of like, I mean, he was
more like a silent partner.
Yeah, but I mean, he was he had to put together all his paperwork for being the net worth person, and which takes a lot because when you have the SBA looks at all the businesses that you have, so it's not just like you as a person, but it's turn in all your tax returns for all your businesses, So hopefully all your ducks are in order, and
right.
So so we passed on the hard, and then they came back yesterday in the morning. And they said, no, we're not going to, extend your due diligence period. And I had a phone call with Mika, and, and I was, she was bummed. I was bummed. And, like she was saying like, what, I don't know, like, she was like, yeah, based on the numbers. And I'm like, no, not based on the numbers. Like the numbers are kind of soft. Like we're not, you know what I mean? There's no realness or there's no, what's the word? There's no solid data or what is it called?
Yeah.
There's no, the data's soft. Like,
yeah.
It's just.
Now, were these loans recourse or non-recourse?
They're recourse.
The recourse?
Majority of them are recourse. But recourse just means that, like,
they take the note and then they take the property and you owe them.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Why wouldn't that be recourse? I mean,
I'd be surprised. A lot of commercial loans are non-recourse.
I don't think small one. I think
not small one. No. I was just curious if this particular one was
yeah, but if the asset's worth what it's worth in the loan,
and it has a nice DSCR, then
there's nothing.
There's nothing
for them to come after more. If you're not, it's like the only way they would come after you more is like if you're underwater, I guess.
Or, yeah. Or if not,
but why would they take it if you're not underwater?
Right.
I don't know. Whatever it is. So yeah, man. Then Mika, in the 11th hour, said, "Okay, let's offer them."
A broker in her. Let's try to salvage the deal.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
Offer them the $5,000. I go, and I had already done the math. I'm like, it's $1,600 each for three of us. And I'm like, I told Mika, I'm like, Mika, it's not the money with me. I go, it's just the uncertainty of. And she goes, oh yeah, the long term. I go, no, it's not the long term either. It's the uncertainty of the short term. I'm like, because we could figure it out. I mean, if we can't, we're all in commercial real estate. We have to be able to figure it out. You just might not get the returns that are penciled in, or you're projecting, or you're, you
may have to sell it and maybe make a little profit, but not the profit you want.
No, not the 25% turnover.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's being projected. But so it was a bummer, but it was
hell of an exercise, hell of a learning experience, though.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. I think the first thing I learned was when you're gonna pick partners, you need to have a sit down with everyone. Doing stuff over the phone and doing it over the internet is very hard, I found. Because that's your,
It sounds easy.
it's not though, because you need to like that face to face,
Of course.
and to really look at someone and understand like, like what are your roles? What kind of part are you playing in this, active, non-active? Like, is your paperwork in order? And do I have to chase you when we have deadlines to turn things in? Do I have to chase you so now I know all these little nuances, and then even going into after you acquire the asset, what roles people play. And I think that, you got to be really upfront with all that and ask those questions, those hard questions, because if not, it's like just there's uncertainty and you don't know. And then you start feeling like this person's doing more, that person's doing more, that person's doing less. And I mean, it's just not you want to go into the transition with a nice feeling, and then everyone on the same side and everyone like going the right way and, propelling through, and the motivation and all that stuff to have an asset and change the asset and add the value to it, and, appreciate the asset and, obviously give a good return to you and your partners. I think that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned right off the bat, is the whole partnership thing.
Right, because everybody, the thing about it too, is also everybody has had their own, I don't know, when it comes to finance and money, everybody's different, completely different, and some people are more conservative, some people are more generous, some people are more, they don't want to share their information. Even though a lot of it will come out. I mean, you can't go out and go and get a bank loan, and you have to disclose everything full disclosure. But yeah, man,
I think that was one of the reasons why the historicals on the hotel were so bad, is because now this lady that owned it used to work on Wall Street. She's no dummy. And I think that that we find in our world is that mom and pops,
oh yeah,
throw a lot of different expenses.
Oh yeah.
Or you're saying, oh, the property didn't make any money. You know what I mean? So I don't have to pay any property taxes or
we
whatever.
Come across that on those, most of the Freddie SBLs that we work on. We come across that. I mean, I'm working on one right now where, typical R&M is what, $550, $600. This had a $900 R&M for a 16-unit apartment building, right? Just peeling the layers and talking to the property manager, I knew right away, they had auto expense. They had lumping in CapEx. They were throwing in some business expense in there that didn't even belong in there. And this is just conversational. But
that's the non-sophisticated investor, where it's kind of like one-sided, right? So
right.
They're doing it correctly like that to mitigate the risk of them paying taxes.
Of course.
But when they want to get a loan, now you're caught between like, oh, yeah, I need to show that this is positive cash flow and not like negative, so I can get this.
I can't depreciate it anymore for tax purposes.
Coverage and LTV and everything, right? But yeah, man, that's a slippery slope. I saw that too. I saw that with, I don't know, Diverge or who I saw, but it's like, yeah, that's definitely something you got to look out for.
Mom and pop operations, you'll see that, and it's funny because I find sometimes it's easier when you have sophisticated financials, everything broken down. I mean, you've seen those when you get them, you're like, oh, it's gonna make my life easier. Sometimes you spend more time trying to figure out what is what on some of these financials that we get, and even then you're almost like, well, I'm gonna have to rely on market, because what you guys are showing me here doesn't make sense, and you're not telling me the whole story.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So yeah, no hotel.
That sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that, dude. I remember. I mean, basically, we were all living it here, breaking down the finances, hearing, what's going on, and I mean, look, man. At the end of the day, it may pop up again. I mean, you never know. The first time around,
no.
Remember,
but here's the thing: is that like, it didn't have to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had the opportunity, like, to go hard with $5,000 or $10,000.
Yeah,
it's that's $1,600 or $3,000 each. It's not like when you're buying. I mean, this wasn't that expensive. So if you're buying a $2 million asset and they're asking you for $5,000,
that's nothing.
It's nothing if you really want it that bad, right? That was the problem. Was that I didn't know, like, if I would have known that, here's the rents, the place is, dilapidated. We got to spend X amount of money to get the units up to par, and I can hit this. Here's where the market is now, but I think we can, get over the market with the 20% year over year rent increases.
Well, the uncertainty of the location doesn't help.
No, but I don't think this. I don't think the location.
Yeah, because you were just saying it, but the weekday.
Well, correct. Okay.
The occupancy level. So it's not about Fort Pierce per se. It has to do with the weekday occupancy level in that location.
And it's just and my just not having that experience of working in that market, as an operator.
Yeah.
Either a short term, I don't have. We have our townhouse, but we don't have like a single family house that we have on the Airbnb. I can't tell you. And the people that I spoke to couldn't tell me either. That was the worst part, right?
Right. But also keep in mind, they're your competitors.
No, I'm talking not about the property owner. I'm talking about the management companies.
Oh, the management company. I thought you were talking about the lady. Yeah.
Now, mind you, that the management companies are in Port St. Lucie, one town south, a city south, and then in Vero, one city north, and Fort Pierce is still that area where they haven't really, they're just coming into the area now, and all these managers wanted this asset because it was 13 units, and usually if someone when they manage, they usually manage like a single family house. That's
right,
maybe a duplex. It's 2 units. This was 13 units someone was about to absorb, and they were all excited for that, but man, they just couldn't give me the.
Yeah, I mean,
they couldn't give me that feeling of we're definitely, and they even I looked at even the hotel, the actual hotel had a couple units on VRBO, but I even looked at the price and I'm like, the one bedroom was on there for $250 when the market is it should be on there for $120. So that still didn't even make sense. Unless that, and I was reading her ad on the VRBO that said $215, and it was we give discounts for older people, surfers, and there was some other group. And they said, go to our website. So I don't know if they were just putting that bigger price on there, but then who would click on the bigger price anyways? I don't know. It was just, that's the whole thing too.
And her financials weren't showing the $250.
No, man, it was just wrong. I mean, I don't know. It just, and I told Sole that I said, I'm definitely going to watch this asset and we'll see what happens over the next 5 years. If it trades again, and if it trades for $5 million, you know what I mean?
Well, that's the problem with not just investing, but even if you're involved in the brokerage side as well, is it's become personal to some degree because you just backed out of the deal and you're going to be honed in on it and follow it. And then, at some point it may sell.
But it can't be personal. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I told myself that too, because I was very emotional.
Well, it's your first one too.
Yeah. And it was more like a passion project.
Yeah. And it's your first one. It came out of nowhere. You weren't really ready to, you were and you weren't. It literally fell on your lap.
Yeah. I wasn't.
You weren't really actively.
Okay, this is crazy. Watch this story. So the reason why I looked for it was I have a good friend. His name's Christian, lives in Memphis, Tennessee. And he was trying to buy a building in Memphis. He inspired me. So I went and looked on LoopNet for properties in Fort Pierce that night. And I saw the hotel. And we had just stayed in the Airbnb right around the block from it. So we knew the hotel. We just walked by it and said to each other, wow, those people take a nice care of that place. It'd be great to own something like that one day. And that was I think a week before that. And then it popped up and I was super excited.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Everything was falling into place. You literally had fall on your lap. You found the partners.
Found the partners on social media.
Let's start with that. You had everything lined up.
But I didn't have anything lined up. That was the whole thing.
You had the hardest part was getting the partners. So let's start with that. That's the most difficult part.
I just posted one picture on my Instagram.
And it took off.
And it got traction and people called me and I put together the partners.
And then next thing you know.
But I thought those partners were going to help me. I I didn't know. Well, I see. I say that now, like,
But you never had the conversation, by the way.
right.
So
and
you
that's-
can't say
that's the
you thought they were going to help me. Well, you didn't know that because you never asked,
Right.
what can you do for me? I'm new in this.
right,
How can I get there?
right.
So to some degree, they're probably thinking in their mind, he's an appraiser. He knows what he's doing when it comes to numbers.
Well, I did know the submarket. I knew the submarket. I knew what land was going for. I knew what all the Airbnbs were going for right there. So I did know a lot, but I didn't. But I knew those numbers, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know how to call the insurance companies to get insurance quotes.
How to call the property
I didn't
management
know
company to get the management quotes.
I didn't know how to get the debt.
Got it.
I didn't know I was going to be the guy to get the debt.
Wait, that was surprising because to me is if you're an investor, an experienced investor, you should have a Rolodex of bankers for various asset types.
Yeah, I mean, but
Or commercial property, commercial
that was the
bankers
thing
in
was
general.
that he wasn't really. I mean, his big thing was
Bankers.
flipping. No, his big thing was flipping houses and things like that.
Of course, but you still got to get money. If you're not gonna use your money, you're gonna have to get some financing. You're gonna have to get some debt, right?
Yeah.
So you would at least have some contacts within a
He
banking.
had a couple contacts, but his contacts didn't.
Right.
And plus, this asset wasn't like typical, so it wasn't like it.
Yeah. You needed your specific SBA or
You had to do some digging.
Digging, yeah. But speaking of submarket, let me tell you, I've gotten more bids within the past 6 months, not Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie area, than I've had the 3 years since I've been here.